All right, everyone. There's a lot of liberal silence today, actually, as a result of Donald Trump signing, inevitably, the Epstein release bill, which means that the DOJ now has 1 month to release the files to the public. Now, they will be redacted. This, in my opinion, is a problem. This is definitely not a perfect act. This is definitely not a perfect release of the Epstein files. What should be done, and if I was Donald Trump, what I would be doing is unilaterally declassifying everything, unredacting it all, and then releasing it myself. I would even bypass the DOJ and I would simply say, well, I'm the President of the United States. I can do exactly whatever I want with these files because I have the ability to declassify them, and I do not require any court's permission to do so. Now, why not just release them all? There will be redactions. I suspect that they will be selective in nature, that they will be politically motivated. I noticed that, the entire Uniparty was pushing for the release, and I think that Trump effectively got wind of this basic plan. And that was why for a while there, he said, well, we're not going to release anything, basically. But then selective releases by the Democrats sort of forced his hand. He realized it was extremely politically unpopular to stand in the way. So it's better to have an imperfect release than no release at all. Again, he should probably bypass this. In the future, I suspect that he might actually do that. It could be that you're going to get a partial release now, again, politically redacted, and then in the future, because Trump can't run for office again anyway, towards the end of his tenure, he just says, oh, here's the full files. Now you'll see the story that you didn't see before. That would probably be around Trump's MO, in my opinion. This is a good thing, though, and the liberals are very, very quiet about it, except for a few of them. Elon Omar, for example. Somehow she was trying to cast off the Republican Party as the pedophile protecting party. That's her words, not mine, by the way. That's a quote on Twitter earlier today. Well, technically at the end of yesterday, which was really, really funny because in the end, it was Donald Trump that actually compelled the final vote and said, just fucking release the documents. So I don't see the pedophile protection here. A man who castigated Epstein and forced him out of his properties and who was the one that was mainly pushing for the release of these files, originally, he's the one protecting child molesters? I don't think so. And for Elon Omar, of all people, by the way, considering her particular background to be talking about sexual perversion is also very, very strange and hysterically funny. The Democrats mostly have been quiet about this. A lot of them, the other day, pretended that Donald Trump was going to veto this bill. This was never a possibility. It was never a possibility because the votes were there in the House and the Senate to override a veto anyway. That would look sus. That would look really, really bad. And Donald Trump was wise to avoid that particular pitfall. I think basically the strategy behind what the Uniparty is doing is say, release the Epstein files. Now, Trump knows that they're going to be heavily redacted. They're going to be skewed. They're going to be cherry-picked. They're going to be used as political ammunition. But in the end, it would have been worse for him to veto the bill because it would have gotten overridden, so the veto wouldn't work anyway, and it would make him look culpable. Even if the final release, of course, it will mention Trump, but only mentions him in passing. Hey, gave testimony. Hey, he had this interaction 30 years ago or something. Even then, though, it would make it look suspicious. Donald Trump would be wise to bypass Congress completely, ignore the current bill entirely, and unredact the documents and release them personally. Say, look, American people, I'll sign the bill. That's perfectly fine. Then you'll get the redacted version. You can compare that to the clean version that's unredacted, and then you can see exactly what they were trying to do. Donald Trump right now effectively has been handed a goddamn bunker buster that he can crack over his enemies' heads. I'm hoping that he's intelligent enough to actually take that initiative. I think 30 days is probably long enough to get the clean files, so in completely unredacted form. All you have to do is declassify them, and then you can pretty much do whatever you want with them. Show us the clean version, and then let the public compare it to and you already signed off on it, so it'll be released, the redacted version. I have a feeling that that would open some people's eyes. Most people will remain asleep, but some people will get the memo. Some people will understand exactly what was being done. This is a way to absolutely bitch slap Chuck Schumer, by the way, in the process, because it's quite clear he's now the leader of the Democrats. He's now the leader of the Democratic Party. Pelosi's on her way out. Newsom, he's too busy making stupid memes for the most part. And you don't really have any other party leadership. You're left with Chuck Schumer. Of all people, it's basically Schumer v. Bernie Sanders and AOC v. Fetterman. You have a little bit of a trifecta here. The uniparty Democrats are effectively run by Chuck Schumer. Why don't you outflank him? He's going to have a redacted version released to the public. That's not what we want. I want everything. Well, if Donald Trump gives me everything, and then I can compare it to the redacted version, I have a feeling, a sneaking suspicion, and I'm sure that all of you will get the memo as well on this one. I have a sneaking suspicion that those redactions are very, very selective in nature. I'm just saying, considering what you know, Democratic committees have done with regards to the files that they've released so far, it's basically nothing more than a hit job against Donald Trump. I wouldn't think that the redacted version that the Democrats want released, I don't think that that'll be any different. This is why Mike Johnson was so pissed off, because the Senate Democrats decided to preempt on this particular topic. It gets rammed through the Senate and the House in very quick order, and this is the other tell. This is the other problem. Whenever legislation goes through, and it's very, very quick, and it's virtually unanimous, like with the Epstein bill, you can be assured that it is shenanigans. And that's exactly what we're going to see. You're not going to get the fully unredacted files at all. You're going to get heavily redacted, selectively edited material and conjecture and things like that that are actually legally irrelevant anyway. And that's what you're going to get. In the name of national security, we had to redact a bunch of these names because there are ongoing investigations. At this point, I would tell Trump, fuck the ongoing investigations. The court of public opinion is going to crucify these people 10 times harder than the legal system will because you don't control the legal system. Look at what the courts have been doing to you. They're not your friends. They're not going to do jack shit to anyone that actually did anything wrong. Instead, it's going to be a political slap fest more than anything else. We've already been seeing this for quite some time. It's fairly self-evident exactly the direction that they're going in. Trump should simply release them unilaterally. He has the ability to do so. I do not believe that he'll do so. I think that he's just sort of going to roll with the punches and put the issue to rest. But it would be the wise decision. More difficult? Yes. Ultimately, much more wise? Yes, as well. Now, those two things can be true at the same time. But the liberals don't really have a whole lot to say today about this issue. Instead, they're simply just petulantly posting pictures of Trump hanging out with Epstein back in like 1999 and stuff like that and pretending that that's actually relevant. Again, we've seen this before. We've been seeing it for years. Donald Trump raped children in cases that were all dropped and in some cases successfully countersued, of course. Donald Trump went to Rape Island, but he never physically did, actually. He kicked Epstein out of his properties. He was, by the way, among the very first people associated with Epstein to throw him out. A lot of other people continued being his friend even though they knew that he was a pervert. I would say this speaks good things for Trump. But the documents are going to list Trump over and over and over again. That will, by the way, be utilized by the legacy media. They're going to selectively clip out pieces from the release. and they're going to present that to the public out of context. We all know that this is going to happen. It's been happening for years. It would be very, very strange if that wasn't actually the case. That's about all. Peace out.